Morning, folks. Roxanne, good morning. Blessings to you. Thank you for my brooms as always. And, uh, this is the year for the brooms to come out for the next, 12 and possibly 8, 20 months. Yeah. Patty Kutu, good morning to you. Lil Tippin, morning. Good morning, Rookman. Pauline Buckmeyer, morning. Ruben Rogers, Arlene Lewis, morning, guys. Arena Jennings, good morning to you out there. Allen, Desmond Samuel, morning. Cyril Mejia, Deborah Duranty, Jacqueline Phillips, John Quito, good morning. Denise Bramble, Sedena Kwashi, morning, Sedena, and Happy New Year to you as well. Ruth Fontin, morning. Morning, Diane. Morning, Alison. Morning, Carol. Morning, Anna. Annette Bayard, morning to you as well. So let me see if we start. This morning is one of those gravy indulgence morning. You all know when I say that, when I ask for your indulgence, who are going to play? Yeah. Joy Ragunanan, good morning. Joycelyn Smallwhite, morning. Mina Lazare. So I'd ask for forgiveness up front because I know we don't really like to listen to hear him, but sometimes you need to, unfortunately, to reinforce. Can't dismiss it. We need to remind people of what they may be voting for in 2025 and the caliber of persons that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa offers you to serve as government ministers. I mean, if in opposition, these people have no scruples, they have no decency, to use the colloquial expression, no brought upsy. Well, shame, I tell you. Even in the death of the founder of their party, they would use that to attack. They can't just behave. Show some level of decency, some level of I don't know. It's amazing. Oh gosh, the founder of your party died. Just offer your condolences and whatever tributes you want to pay and leave it at that. No? But they had to take it a step further to somehow bring Dr. Rowley into the foolishness and attack. Before I go there, it's already 6:39, and this is one of those early mornings for me. So I just see how quickly I can wrap this up. So let me get this here. So pull up this. So, right. So let me just highlight again another episode of hypocrisy. So the lady who was kidnapped just over a week ago, Anisha Buru, I think is her name. She was kidnapped, I think, 2 Fridays ago. And she has since returned home safely. Now, the particulars of that whole situation is still a bit vague. We don't know because information hasn't really been that forthcoming. So we don't know if it was a police rescue, if it was an escape, or a release. I'm confused because you're seeing some reports saying that she walked into her home. Police have persons in custody. I don't know. I didn't read anything about there was any police raid or anything like that. So I'm a little confused. But typical Trinise, when the story first broke that she's back home safely, and because the details of her return still a bit sketchy, Trinise decided to form their own opinion, and they're saying this is a case of Kunti number 2. You'll remember Kunti, who was the lady who went missing a few Christmases ago, she too was allegedly kidnapped, and then she came back home, and it turned out that she just went to spend some time with the side piece. I am not saying that this is what the situation is. I am just saying Trinis, typical Trinis, in the absence of information, will form their own opinions. And but again, when it is that the authorities, for whatever reason, choose to release only certain information, well, they leave citizens no other choice but to make such assertions. But anyway, I am not doing that. But why I raised it is because, again, public nuisance, or wannabe public nuisance number one, Inshan Ishmael. When the woman was kidnapped, right? First thing he put up was a post. Let me get this here. He put up a post on his Facebook page on the 29th of December. And again, they're so low and crass that he decided to use the woman's kidnapping to make a point with respect to his situation with the guard boot, right? So there's what the post that he puts up. But forgive the language, the jackass and them at the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation break down our booth because we want to protect ourselves. This is Anisha. She was kidnapped this morning in El Socorro, and he put up a picture of the lady because he was so concerned about her kidnapping. Subsequent to that, he puts up another post. The greatest asset to criminals in TNT is the People's National Movement. All right. On the 30th of December, he puts up, which was the next, over 36 hours and not a word on the missing businesswoman. Not even a peep from the stinking TTPS. And then I told you all what he said about the Prime Minister's call for citizens to assist. And the 31st of December, he then puts up another post. 48 hours and not one word from Erla or her minions on the abduction of Anisha Buru. Failed performance, were too greedy to resign. And on each of those posts, you see, and this is my issue with this man, right? And the first post that he put up, over 36 hours and not a word on the missing businesswoman, not even a peep from the stinking TTPS. It was shared 91 times because apparently 91 people thought that that was something worthy of sharing. 218 comments. And in those 218 comments, of course, people were attacking the police, attacking the government, talking about how the police in 2 hours find Imsbert's son's phone, but they can't find the woman. All kind of thing. And then you have the racist comments and so on. If she was, maybe if she was of a different ethnicity, they might have put more effort into finding. And all kind of. And this is the problem I have with this man. That when he puts up divisive posts like this, it attracts and it encourages comments such as that, right? And he reads the comments. I know he reads the comments because from time to time, when you go through it, you will see if there's a comment that is critical of the post or critical of him, he will respond to it. But the other posts that are some of which are racist in nature, and some of which, unwarranted attack on this case on the police service, he will just allow it, just leave it up there. So he refers to the police as the stinking TTPS because, as he says, over 36 hours and not a word on the missing businesswoman. So apparently, I don't know if it is you wanted the police to hold a press conference and give a running commentary. Well, this is what we have. This is the leads. This is what we're following up. So, maybe to inform the kidnappers so that they could be kept abreast as to what is happening with the investigation and how close the police are to apprehending them. Right? That making sense to him. But the woman was subsequently found, and there are no other posts, nothing praising the TTPS, nothing of the sort, no reference whatsoever to her release, to her, I don't know. Went through his entire page, nothing. But you were so concerned before about the woman that you had to put running back-to-back posts, but nothing from the TTPS. She has been found. She is back home safely with her family, and nothing from him, not a squeak. After you refer to the TTPS as the stinking TTPS. You see, it's people like this man that I consider to be dangerous to society from the perspective that these are the people who encourage others to be disrespectful to authority. To me, this is a disrespect to the hardworking police officers who go out there every day and try to do the best that they could, notwithstanding the prevailing circumstances. And then you have people like this man who has a following who will attack the police because he has some issue, a number of issues with the police, as we are aware of. It seems the only time he didn't have any issues with the police, the only time he was in love with the TTPS was when he had the contract to fix police vehicles. Yeah, so he was, in those days under GG, he was happy, he was in love with the TTPS. Today, not so much. Not so much. Right? But not one word. Just like the UNC. They were so concerned about the threat of Venezuela and the Essequibo and Guyana. They kept talking about that constantly, calling on Dr. Rowley to use his good graces with Maduro to mediate and bring this thing to an end because we're concerned and we're so concerned. CARICOM did just that. CARICOM. And to date, the UNC has not issued one statement with respect to that issue. They have not commended CARICOM for the work that they did for facilitating that meeting or anything of the sort. Not one word. Even if you don't agree, and we know they didn't agree. They were hoping for a different outcome, an outcome that would have seen the dragon gas deal scuttled, because we know that dragon gas deal has them very, very concerned. There are persons who, some of whom are normally critical of the government, who are today, singing the government's praises, in particular for this dragon gas matter, getting it to the point that it is at now, and the potential that it holds for the future, that the government was able to secure a 30-year license, 30 years. So we know in 30 years' time, a lot of them who criticizing it, who have an issue with it from that party, will no longer be here, right? They would have gone the way of the leader of the founder of their party, by then. And they can't take that. And if that is an indication of things to come, then they know 2025 is going to be an uphill battle. So when they thought it would be a walk in the park, be anything but. Because I see they put out this next one, the one who is under investigation for human trafficking, prostitution, and so on. I saw a post, so let me see if I get this here. Comment that he made on, I think it's Facebook. From the results of the last local government election poll, 30.34% participation. Using polling division results and putting it into a constituency configuration, projects a victory for the UNC in 24 constituencies, inclusive of San Fernando West, St. Joseph, Tunapuna, La Joqueta Talparo, and Toco Sangre Grande. So that is their prediction for 2025, that they are going to win an additional 5 seats. So basically all of the marginal seats that they would have lost in the last 2 general elections, they expect based on the results of the last local election. And however they analyzed it, don't know what magic, well, we know they probably use Kamla-matics for this and some different type of matics to come up with this. And they have the view that they're going to win 24 seats in 2025. This is Ravi Ratiram posting this. Right. We'll see about that. Delusional much? I think so. But anyway, in this country, nothing is beyond the realm of possibility, right? Because in 2010, while we would have anticipated a PNM loss, we didn't think that it would have been at the magnitude of which it was, where you had PNM stronghold seats like Arima and Abadiomera going to the People's Partnership, right? But those of us who have work to do, and we know we have work to do, we will continue to trot on to ensure that that does not happen. As I said, all we need is a victory in 2025, and if you want to see the back of Kamla Persad-Bissessar, because I think at the next election after that, which would be in 2030, she should be about 79, pushing 80. So if they still want to keep her at the age of 80. And they'll probably cite Joe Biden to say, well, he was 81 years when he contested the um, election in 2024 for president of the US. So who is Kamala? All right. Yeah. Well, I continue to keep faith with her, right? No problem. This, I don't know what kind of mind games these clowns playing, but feel free to continue. So that was thing one. Thing two, this story with this soldier who killed his mother-in-law, well, his ex-mother-in-law and his ex-wife. A most unfortunate development. Most unfortunate. But again, it brings to the fore this whole question about bail. And it seems that, to me, that discussion is not being had in the way that it should be. I would have mentioned to you all on Tuesday where Senior Counsel Avery Sinanan would have made mention, I think he's some prominent member of the Law Association, that perhaps the time has come for us to review the granting of bail for certain crimes. And this is just a year and, about a year and a half after the UNC lawyers were successful in having the court overturn murder as a non-bailable offense, right? And when we look at a lot of the crimes that taken place, more often than not, we see a lot of the people who are getting bail for murder are returning to a life of crime, committing more crimes. So when the police apprehend them for the original crime and have them behind bars, they get in bail thanks to the United National Congress coming out and committing new crimes, giving the police more work to do on top of what they already have. So it's just like you're spinning top in mud. And so the members of that party wouldn't speak to that issue. They continue to defend citizens' right to bail, and it's a constitutional right to bail because the Constitution says so. Who wrote the Constitution? The Constitution just fell from heaven. It was handed down to man like the Ten Commandments, so therefore it is absolute and cannot be changed. You see, when the Constitution was written, the framers of the Constitution back then, we must take into consideration the crime situation then was not what it is today. And perhaps those persons who were influential in writing the Constitution never envisaged that the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago would become what it is. Certainly murders were not what it is as it is today. And they probably never thought that we would be seeing 500 plus murders on an annual basis. It's beyond the realm of possibilities. Like us now saying, the idea of a murder told the likes of Jamaica, $13, $14, $1,500, 1,500 murders a year. We can't, conceptualize that. And in the same way that we can't imagine that happening here, we see went from 300, 400, 500, and we say, all right, even based on our population size, that's the average. But to think that it could reach a 1,500 is, So it might have been the same thinking that those who wrote that Constitution back in the original one, 1962, and then revised 1976 and so on, never envisaged that you would have that type of murders. And so therefore, right? And then the laws that are on the books. So perhaps the time has come for us to revise the Constitution again with respect to the absolute. It is not, they would say it's an absolute right. The Constitution is not, it's not infallible. It was written for a time, and therefore it needs to be revised. And this is one of the things that the late Vasdeo Pandey was championing and often spoke of. He said that there is need for, he was always used to talk about constitutional reform. We need constitutional reform. We need constitutional reform. They paid him no mind. Maybe there was some substance to what he was saying. But the things that he identified that needed reform, like the first past the post system, he had a problem with that because he realized that was a dagger in the heart of the UNC. So they wanted to change it to proportional representation and all of that, and popular vote and all them kind of thing. Right? Again, anything to make it easier for them to be able to wrest power from the PNM. So that was the focus of it. But this issue of bail should be a concern. When we read the history of this soldier and the things, threatening the woman they had, restraining orders, which to me is just a waste of time. Just a piece of paper that says, if it is that you go to the, you decide to, well, breach the court order, and you decide to molest, interfere with the person who has taken out the order, and they call the police will come and lock you up. But of course, that is assuming that you do not harm the person. Well, when I say assuming, really and truly, it doesn't. In this case, it was worthless because it wasn't able to prevent a double murder, right? So I suppose that this young lady might have felt a certain degree of safety with this protection order. I didn't help her, right? And then I understand it was a JP who gave him station bail. And that's another thing I have a concern with. When these JPs come and give station bail, is tracing done before? Do they inquire, so what is this man's history? What is his criminal history? Does he have any matters before? Do they ask these questions, or just, well, hey, they call me, again, a piece of money? I don't know how that works. How I imagine they receive some kind of payment for that, as the case may be. But really, there are certain, to my mind, certain crimes for which the whole issue of bail should be reserved either for a magistrate or a high court judge. Petty crimes, no problem, JP. But matters which require some level of treason, especially when you know the individual has a criminal history, should be reserved for a magistrate or a high court judge, right? Only after you have a tracing history that they could review to see that this person is a menace to society, this person is a threat to society, and therefore should not be let out on bail, because based on what we see in here, this rap sheet, the likelihood is if this person gets bail that they're going to go back out and commit more crimes. So maybe if that was the case, this individual may not have been able to do what he did, right? And even I think the Defense Force, the Army, has their own separate system that they operate with respect to when the officers are accused of certain crimes and court martials and all of these different things. But this is a double murder, and so therefore outside of their jurisdiction. But how many more women are there like that in this country who are orders, who have made numerous reports to the police about their ex, who seems obsessed, and he can't accept the fact that the relationship done, that the woman has moved on, she's no longer interested in having a relationship with you. How many more of them are there like that, who hiding and in fear and seeing this situation and wondering if that could be them, if they could be another statistic, if that could have triggered in the mind of their ex something that he could do? I mean, come on, man, really? And when I wouldn't be surprised if his attorney is from that party. I don't know, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. Just like the police officer who is accused of murder in the killing of the siblings by courts, right? Who was arrested for their murder. And when the story was carried on the news the other night, the first thing the lawyers would jump up and talk about, well, they intend to move expeditiously to get bail for him. He's accused of murdering 2 people, right? And injuring a third. So it could have been 3 people murdered. He could have been on a triple murder charge, but he's on a charge, double murder charge, and a wounding charge. And you think it is ideal to get bail for this individual, right? A police officer. You think, and his lawyers think that making sense. So, because for them, it is a badge of honor that I could go and say, well, hey, so when people realize, hey, we get bail for this man and our name show up in the newspapers and whatnot, others who are looking for a lawyer to get them bail for murder could look to us. They can't advertise, but that is the best form of advertisement for them. Look, you see that man, you see the policeman get bail. Who is the lawyer by? Find out who's his lawyer. So if you find yourself in a situation, that's who you're going and call, because clearly these persons know how to maneuver in the court to be able to get bail for what may be considered some of even the most heinous of crimes. Thanks to who? Right. Once upon a time, that discussion would not even be had about any bail. He would be sitting on remand for the next 10, 15 years. But thanks to that party, prominent senator sitting former senator, former attorney general, and others, persons such as these can now apply for and get bail easily. Easily. Where is the justice for the family? Where is the justice? When they at least they could have take some solace or comfort in the fact that the person who took the life of my loved one is at least sitting behind bars. It's going to take a little while for the case to call, so at least there's some justice there. But when it is that this person has taken the life of your loved one, and within days of being apprehended, is out on bail, and when they should be sitting behind bars for 10 years waiting for the case to call, they're free to do whatever it is they want for 10 years, and your family members are in a coffin, in a hole, or in an urn. Now, Avery Sinanan made that call a few months ago that we should revisit and have a discussion on the whole issue of bail for certain crimes. You hear him say anything about it since then? If he really and truly believes that, and he thinks that this is a discussion that should be had and something that should be looked at, I would think that you would champion the cause. Not just make mention of it once when the media interview you and then you leave it there. Right? Okay, well, I said that, all right, forget it, right? No problem. And you just leave it and you go on about your business. And you continue to see crimes being committed by persons who are getting bail for murder and nothing, not a word. Nothing. You're not pressing for it. You're not forcing the issue so that it could be brought before the legislators. We know what the government's position is with respect to bail. We know that. So there's no need to convince the government. They are already convinced on that. It is the opposition, the government in waiting, the government that you need to have a conversation with. And we know, they know that is a conversation that needs to be had. But how do you have that conversation when you created the problem in the first place? To have that conversation is an admission that you did nonsense. You did foolishness. So it's either we double down and defend the nonsense that we did, or we man up and try to help fix the crime situation by saying, okay, look, we made a mistake and we are willing to fix it. We still believe that it's in reinforcing the constitutional right to bail, but we believe there are certain situations where, but they will come and play on the foolishness. Well, it's up to the judicial officer. All we did was to create an opportunity for the person to apply for bail, but we never tell the judge to give them bail, or we never tell the magistrate to give them bail. Yeah, but you all go and put out strong arguments for bail. When these people call you, yeah, no problem. Why don't tell them, I ain't taking that case away. I can't do it in good conscience. There's money in their pocket. And the partner, they say they love money bad, but they're afraid jail. Love money bad. That's what it is about for them. So they realize that by having murder overturned as a non-bailable offense, you have a whole new constituency of clients sitting down in prison we had no use for before. But now, yeah, whether they get bail or they don't get bail, you getting paid. So you can buy a new Mercedes and your second house and whatever else it is that they spend their monies on, their ill-gotten gains. I wonder how they feel when these things happen. The attorney who would have made a case for this soldier to get bail, and then today, 2 people are dead. A family is in mourning. A child is without his mother and his grandmother, and his father is likely to spend the rest of his natural life in prison. How is that child supposed to grow up now? As a normal child? Your father in jail and your mother dead, and your father kill your mother and your grandmother. And he just supposed to grow up normal. Yeah, that's what's under the small thing, man. Right? There will forever be stories on the internet about that. So even when he is old and gray, he could still go on the internet and pull up a newspaper article, several newspaper articles, news coverage of his father killing his mother and grandmother. And he's supposed to live a normal life. Thanks to who? The likes of? You know what I'll tell you? Yeah, we can let him go on bail because that was just, it's not like he's a threat to society. He's not inclined to just go killing people. It's just he had an issue with this woman and he went to kill her and probably the mother gets in the way and she passed in the rush. So, Your Honor, he's not really a threat, Yeah. Yes, he may have committed murder, but it was just only these 2 people. Right? He's not the ordinary criminal with the AR-15 and so on, who just going around and killing people, robbing people and so on. It's just he had an issue. So if while he's out on bail, he has an issue with anybody else, and he said, right. And the UNC's response and the UNC's answer to that is just put an ankle bracelet on him so the police will know where he is at all times. Put him under house arrest. And that'll solve the problem. And the supporters clapping for that. But if it was the PNM had done that, you will not hear the end of it. But today they want to defend that, talking nonsense about constitutional right to bail and whatnot. Yes, constitutional right to bail, but some crimes should not even be considered. Don't give me no nonsense about the police has set up people and whatnot. Because the DPP is not simply the police say, hey, you lock up for murder and they throw you in a cell. Right? They have to prepare a file with evidence that they would have gathered and send it to the DPP. And the DPP has to review the file. And if whoever reviews the file in the DPP's office is of the considered view that this evidence is strong enough to make a case, a prima facie case can be made. Well, now we're just going to the assizes, which is good. No more preliminary inquiries to waste years and years and years. Maybe if they had done that before, Ram Logan and Ramdeen may not have escaped unscathed, to use Pandey's too, right? But these are the things. So the DPP still has to review the file. So the police had to work real hard to frame a man for murder, to create evidence or to find and to gather evidence that convinces the DPP's office that this person is guilty and they could win the case. But the UNC have a believer, no, a policeman does have a problem with somebody, and yeah, they could frame the person for murder, as if it is the same way that they could do with planting weed or something on somebody. Yeah? So, and then they come in now to tell you, well, the solution to crime is to give law-abiding citizens firearm users licenses. This man was a member of the Defense Force. A member of the Defense Force, so law-abiding. Right? He would have gone through the whole process, the whole gamut, whatever psychological test and whatever they would have to do for these guys. And it was felt that this is somebody who could serve in the Defense Force. Right? So want to uphold the law. He's law-abiding. So he has access to his service weapon and probably has his own personal weapon too, firearm user's license. Yeah, law-abiding citizen. As if law-abiding citizens don't trip. And how many more situations like that can we expect if those people come back into office in 2025 and decide to carry out a plan to, you want a gun? Yeah, just follow the application, no problem. We're making it easy. In about 90 days, you should be able to get your fuel. And you could go and buy a gun. You sufferers who can't afford to make ends meet. You sufferers who can't buy food and can't send your children to school and can't afford to buy a tablet or a laptop for your child. But you could find $7,000 to $15,000 to buy a gun because you get firearm users license. Can't buy food, can't pay increased rates for electricity. You can't pay property tax, $81 a month, but you could find $15,000 to go and buy a gun. Right? And then find money to buy bullets because when you go on the gun range, because that is a requirement to maintain your fuel, you need to go and do practice on the range. So you had to get money to buy bullets too. You have money for that. You have money for that, you know? Yeah, that we have money for. I don't have money property tax. We want to hear that. Property tax that could ensure that the bad roads are always complaining about is fixed, and it reinforces my right to be able to go down to the borough corporation or the regional corporation and get them peace of my mind to tell them I'm paying property tax now in addition to income tax. And they said that the money that I pay in property tax coming to you all to ensure that my road fixed. I want it fixed. I don't want to hear nothing about all your money. Fix it. Fix it. The bridge collapsed and it needs to fix it. Gives you the right to be able to strengthens your right to go and do that. No excuses. They want that. We can't afford that, but we could afford guns. The best are guns too. Yeah? And not one, we want 2 and 3 because in the household, and we know the Trini mentality. So one in the house is not enough. You have 6, 7 adults living in the house, everybody want a gun. Everybody want their own. So everybody houses are armory now. Yeah, boy, making it easier for the criminals who come in to get it. Yeah, because they feel right. Remember when the weapons that these guys using, the 5.56 and the 7 point whatever, you can't get a fuel for that. And when they come in with that to spray, you with your handgun, you might get over a shot or 2, but they ain't coming by themselves. So chances are, even though you have guns and several in the house, we're going to have some collateral damage or some, yes, casualties in that house. Chances are that the perpetrators will leave with a gun or two, as they did in the raid, the home invasion with the Prasad, the Food King family. Right? 2 guns they took. Now they're holding up police officers. I tell you. Even police officers, they ain't afraid of anymore. But Kamala say, the solution is load up the matic. Get them gun. They come in your house, according to Pandey, do them first. Go for the jugular. Empty the clip. Load it up, empty it on them, and then empty it again. But if he kill you first, if he is a quicker draw and he kill you, and the police hold him, he must get bail. Talk about confused much? Kill him or give him bail. Right? So I must reward him for being the quicker draw. So if he come in my house and I catch him first, bust cap in his tail and make sure he dead. Right? Don't shoot to wound, shoot to kill. Bust up his chest. Make sure I empty the clip. Empty the clip on him. Reload if you have a second clip. And empty it and make sure he dead. Yeah? Make sure it's a closed casket funeral. So when you bust up his chest, face, everything, it don't make sense to open the casket. They ain't gonna recognize that. But if he kill you, he's the pastor draw. Come before the courts, give him bail. That is UNC logic. That's UNC logic. Same people talk about, oh, so what are we supposed to do if a man come in your house and you see, and all they're talking about, and you see he raping your wife and he raping your daughter. That's all they're talking about. He raping your wife and he raping your daughter. How many home invasions and house break-ins have resulted in death or rapes and so on? But that's all they're talking about. Yeah, sink it in the psyche of the people. The man will come in your house and he will rape your wife and rape your daughter. What are you supposed to do? Say, oh gosh, Mr. Killer, whoever, Mr. Rapist or whatever. Right? Yeah. So shoot him. But if you get away and you come before the court, we, the attorneys of the UNC, will go and make a case for him to get bail. But what? For raping your daughter and raping your wife. The same thing we tell you to kill him for, we will get bail for him. And that is their logic. And the supporters clapping that. The supporters, yeah, supporting that foolishness. Talk about confused. Well, that's what, and we're supposed to put that back in office. So, let me see what's the time there. Yeah. So, as was to be expected, we have all the accolades for Mr. Pandey, the late Basdio Pandey. I saw his body arrive in the country last night. And the funeral is tentatively carded for next week, Tuesday at Sapa, I think it is. It'll be an interesting thing to see because Mr. Pandey being a Hindu, when it's a state funeral, I don't know how that would play off, how they would, because there are certain rites that they're supposed to engage in. So I don't know if it is that they would just have a formal something and then afterwards probably conduct the Hindu rites and the cremation and whatever. I don't know. But it's the hypocrisy I can't take. But it was to be expected, It was to be expected. So the misleader of the opposition, like she gets some licks for the first post she put out, that self-serving post. Let me get it here. And of course, her post, the Doglaya must come to her defense, right? So let me see if I find that here. So the first post she put out, which I read for you all on Tuesday, self-serving. I am saddened that Mr. Pandey has passed away. I will always love him and be grateful that he was a significant influence in my life. He was a great leader and spent most years of his life helping the oppressed and the poor. Mr. Pandey will always be remembered with love and adoration by all of us whose lives he touched. I express my condolences to all his loved ones. May his soul rest in peace. He will be missed, but will always be remembered and loved. That was her first and what should have been the only post. And under that, we put up a picture of an article that reads, First Woman AG Also Makes History, PM Pandey. And there's a picture of Mr. Pandey holding up what I assume is the Bhagavad Gita, taking his oath as Prime Minister, and also Mrs. Prasad in a smaller picture, taking her oath as the first Attorney General. So she used the opportunity again for self-aggrandizement. Well, she gets some licks for that post. And out of shame, decided to put out a new post. And this one is even longer, paragraphs long. Yeah, she gave the whole history about when he was involved in the trade union and how he was unafraid to confront Eric Williams and all kind of bacchanal and so on. But she made sure to start off by referring to him as former Prime Minister Pandey. And I suppose that would have come from the fact that Gary Griffith, as I read for you all, took issue with Dr. Rowley's condolence message to the Pandey family and his thoughts on Mr. Pandey's passing, that he didn't mention Prime Minister as part of the his post, right? So Gary Griffith was the only person who took issue with that. Imagine when Suzette Lower could come to Dr. Rowley's defense. That tells you something, eh? Because she's not a fan of Dr. Rowley, but the fact that she felt that persons who were attacking Dr. Rowley's post were being overly dramatic. When Suzette Lower could come to Dr. Rowley's defense, that's what I was saying. I'm not going to read what Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar put out in this because I said it's too long. But it was this is a post to save face. It's better you didn't put out a second post. Stick by the first one. Because people are not stupid and we understand why you put out this second lengthy thing. Right? Because the media had already reported when they were quoting the comments of certain persons in the immediate wake of Mr. Pandey's passing. Obviously, the first one they would look for is Prasad-Bissessar. So they went to her Facebook page, pulled what she said, and they mentioned that. And because of the licks that she got, people realized it was self-serving and so on. You come back with this lengthy thing now. And as if that ain't bad enough, she do a voice recording of it. A voice recording so that the media could pull sound bites in the newscast and Kamala Prasad-Bissessar said so and so, and they would just play the clip. Talk about desperation. It should never have come to that in the first place. What you did the second time is what you should have done in the first place. But it was just, let's just say something now because, I don't really care to say nothing about you, but they expect me to say something. So just put out something there for me. I would like to think that she vets. But then again, if as Prime Minister, as Dr. Rowley told us when he came into office, there were files piled this high of things that needed signature, the Prime Minister's signature. Some of the things had been there requiring signatures for almost 2 years. Speaks to and it supports what Gary Griffith told us, that she had 5-day weekends. That the only time she used to show up as Prime Minister is for the occasional appearance in the Parliament, and when it's time to cut ribbon and turn sod and smile for the camera, yes, she was most present. But otherwise than that, 5-day weekends. So all this work piling up. She didn't have time to come and go through all these files, and when it keep piling up, how are you doing that? If when it was the pile was small, so you didn't have time, you weren't inclined to do it. You come in now when it high, so to sit down and go through all of that and read it in detail to see what this is about. No, I have time for that. So imagine what would have happened if she won election in 2015. Imagine. Might not have room in that office. Would not have room. First of all, the Prime Minister's office would not have been where it is today. That we know. It would have still been on Sweetbriar Road, I think. It would have still been there, opposite NCC's headquarters. Because they would not have been inclined to renovate Whitehall except to thief. Except the thief, because the budgets that they had set out for that renovation project far exceeded what the People's National Movement would have spent. But the supporters don't talk about that. Rowley's that this is the most corrupt government ever. And yeah. But I thought I would mention that to show you how pathetic these people are. You really put out this lengthy thing and expect that would absolve you. And then of course you have the loafers like Rudal Munilal. All of these people who gang up against Mr. Pandey in 2010, right? All of them who sided with Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, all of them. Today singing Pandey praises. But to me, one of the most hypocritical, the utterances of Mr. Warner. Let's see if I find this here. Where is it? Let me see at this point. Let me see if I get this here. Politics, Pandey said, really had a morality of its own. Did I save this? Where is it? Guess I didn't. I thought I did. No, right, I remember where it was, on Munilal's page. Give me 1 sec, let me get this here. Munilal. So Munilal puts up an article, shameless as it is. The earth has shaken. So, give me 1 sec, let this thing load. I still had to play that man fall. I don't need to read the whole article. Let me just read what Mr. Warner had to say. Where is it? Former CONCACAF President Jack Warner, who joined the UNC when Pandey was political leader, also expressed shock at the former PM's death. Believe you me, I was shocked to my wits, and because though I know he had a heart problem, I never looked at Pandey as somebody who would die now. He was the greatest prime minister this country has ever had, and worse yet, or in fact better yet, he was the first Indian prime minister and he helped this country. The greatest prime minister this country ever had. Mr. Warner didn't give Mrs. Prasad Bisasa that accolade just a couple of months ago. I thought Kamala was the greatest prime minister this country ever had, so he changed his mind now. You see, this is the level of hypocrisy I can't take it. Who is it, Mr. Was it Pandey or was it Kamala? But you give Kamala that accolade just a few months ago, have the woman smiling from ear to ear, and then today now you take it back and give it to Mr. Pandey. He was the greatest prime. How you think Kamala feeling now? You was mama guy any woman then? Did I say something because? So if it is today or tomorrow she passes on you, come and say the same thing, she was the greatest prime minister, and take it back from Mr. Pandey? Expected better from you, Mr. Warner. Warner also commented on Pandey's daughter's critique of his treatment prior to his death. Michaela praised her dad's strength in a Facebook post on December 27, noting that he had faced baseless, trumped-up charges of alleged corruption, aided and abetted by a biased media with an unholy agenda. And she also condemned those who conspired to plot and steal the party he formed and worked hard to build. Warner said, I think Michaela is right the way she feels because I don't think Pandey was treated justly, rightly, or given the respect that he deserves. Treated justly and rightly by whom, Mr. Warner? They wouldn't even name the airport after him, far less. So I think it's quite correct. And I would say now that he's dead, you'd hear all kinds of praises about him, all kinds of things that he should be and shouldn't be. And this is what pains me sometimes on these occasions. Oh God, Mr. Warner, you doing the same thing? It's the same thing you're doing. When it is that you were seeking to wrest power from the man, to put Kamala on the throne, all kind of thing all you said about the man, all kind of thing, right? After he lost 4 elections based on what Kamala said, she listed the 4. 4 times the present leader has lost. And you want to talk about track record and trench? And she listed the 4 occasions on which he lost the election and said, and if we go into the next election with the same leader, what would be the result? Loss. 4 losses. And you all know Pandey's political currency is no longer of any value. He is no longer, to use his term, politically attractive. And we need to get rid of him and install Kamala Prasad Bisasa. Right? You did that. How many losses Kamala has under her belt? Plenty more than Pandey. At least 3-4 times what Pandey had. Pandey didn't lose 2 general elections. Right? How many by-elections did she lose? Local government elections, lost, all of that. But you come on a platform a few months ago to say that she is the best thing since, well, not even sliced bread. The best thing there is, the best prime minister there ever was, and the best person to lead the UNC into 2025, with about 13, 14, 15 losses. She's the best person. But the man who had only 4, he's the worst person to lead the party into another general election. UNC logic, also known as donkey logic. Ahead of the party's internal elections in 2010, Warner was among those who challenged Pandey's leadership of the UNC as MP for Chaguanas West, who was vying for the party's chairmanship. Warner suggested that Pandey wanted to regain control of the UNC to keep himself out of the courts in relation to the Piarco Airport corruption scandal. So in 2010, according to this article, Mr. Warner suggested that Mr. Pandey wanted to retain control of the UNC to keep himself out of the courts in relation to the Piarco Airport corruption scandal. But you heard me read just before, he agrees with Makila that Mr. Pandey was unfairly treated and so on, and the allegations of, trumped up allegations of corruption. The same trumped up allegations that Mr. Warner, based on this, said in 2010, Mr. Pandey wanted to avoid. So he wanted to retain leadership and become Prime Minister again to stay out of the courts in relation to the Piarco Airport corruption scandal. So in 2010, as far as Mr. Warner was concerned, Pandey was guilty. 2023, trumped up charges. Okay. I need to say no more on that. Mr. Warner said yesterday was yesterday and today is today. Yesterday was yesterday and today is today. Seems that mantra hasn't changed. So I see they're calling for them to name the airport after Mr. Pandey. And some people have taken issue with it. Quite frankly, I support that. I think they should name the airport after Mr. Pandey. I think that's a very, very good idea. Because notwithstanding the passage of time, and notwithstanding all of the accolades that the airport might have gotten over the years, international accolades as the best airport in the Caribbean, and not for the physical infrastructure necessarily, but the quality of service that one receives and the efficiency, that the foundation of that airport will always be rooted in corruption. That airport will always stand, notwithstanding how good it look, as I said, whatever awards it may get, it will always stand as a monument of shame for the United National Congress, for the level of corruption that took place in its construction. That cannot change. Not now, not ever. For perpetuity. As Bob Lindquist said, that airport, the construction, the corruption in that airport was the worst act of fraud ever perpetrated on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago by one of its governments. Bob Lindquist said that. He had no horse in the race. He's a Canadian. He said that. And this is after 2 months of investigation. 2 months of investigation. Right? Which investigation, the same Pandey, alongside Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, attempted to bring an end to. They weren't interested. Right? After the election, they weren't interested in that. So much so that after they won the 2000 election, we saw that Mr. Ramesh Lawrence Maraj was dismissed as Attorney General. Carl Hudson Phillips and Bob Lindquist, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, having been appointed as replacement for Ramesh Maraj, first thing she sought to do when she took up that office was to see what she could come up with to get rid of Mr. Lindquist and Carl Hudson Phillips. Lindquist being the forensic auditor and Carl Hudson Phillips being his, legal, was assisting him with the legal aspects of the thing. And in 2 months, prior to the election, and why 2 months? Because based on the time that he would have been, Mr. Lindquist was retained by then Attorney General Ramesh Maraj, and the time for election was a 2-month period. And Mr. Lindquist would have made the point that, look, I'm going to do as much as I can, but my services will end on the Friday before the election because my client, who is the Attorney General, he may not be the Attorney General after the election. If the UNC loses the election, a new Attorney General, a new party comes in. If they wish to retain my services to continue the investigation, no problem. But I will work with this 2-month timeline. And he did that. And in the space of 2 months, he was able to come to the conclusion that this was the greatest act of fraud ever perpetrated on the citizens of this country by its government. Lindquist says so. Lindquist says so, right? And if we have any doubts about that, we need only to go to Jolene John's testimony, the Commission of Inquiry into the Piarco Airport, in which she indicated that she attended one meeting of this interministerial committee, having been appointed Minister of Works. She attended one meeting, and in this one meeting, to quote her, the greed was palpable. It was nasty. You could feel it. Jolene said so. She went to Mr. Pandey to report to Pandey her findings. And Mr. Pandey's response was, I am aware. It is a milch cow, a feeding frenzy. How long was he aware of this? How long? And in the time prior to Jolene John coming to tell him, boss, it ain't good, you know. It's greed. How long was he aware of this milch cow? How long was he aware of this feeding frenzy? And if Jolene John didn't go to him After which he decided to disband this interministerial committee. Had Jolene John not gone to him, what would he have done? Sit down on his hands like he had done before, like he was doing all the time, turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to what he was aware of, his words? I am aware, right? He said that. But they're singing praises. Pandey was the best prime minister. I have no problem if all they want to heap accolades on the man. He did good things. There is a good side and there is the bad side, right? But let us not come with this revisionist history to try and change history and make it seem as if it was all honky-dory with Mr. Pandey and his in whatever incarnation. In whatever incarnation. Let us not pretend to whitewash. So, you get rid of the bad things, the unsavory things, and we will only sing his praises. All want to do that, fine. That's all your business. But there are those of us out there who remember very well, who want to resign. But I will not, what was it? I will not fire or persecute anybody. Fike. You remember that? Do them first. Go for the jugular. And they say that. That's insulting. But I'm seeing people posting up nonsense in comments on the post about Mr. Pandey was always a decent man, and he was never he never had any outbursts and what foolishness. What rock you all were living under? Really? Pandey never had any outbursts and so on? Right. No one will attack my government and remain unscathed. Who said that? Patrick Manning said that. Keith Rowley said that, right? No one will attack my government unfairly and remain unscathed. What did that mean? But they want to come and tell you it was great. And this foolishness about Mr. Pandey governed the country with $9 with oil at $9 a barrel. I'm fed up here that chuppy talk. Fed up here that nonsense talk. Maybe for 1 or 2 months in the 6 years that Mr. Pandey was prime minister, oil was probably at around $9 and something for a couple months. But for the most part, let me see if I get it here. 1995. Let me get it, yeah? Average close. 1995. $18.43. 1996, $22.12. Average close for the year. Average price for the year. 1997, $20.61. 1998, $14.42. 1999, $19.35. 2000, $30.38. 2001, $25.98. That was the average price of oil in those years. But you have these historical revisionists who want to come and, Pandey run the country with $9 a barrel and things was better. And because they hear a few fools saying that. And for years I've been running with that choppy talk about Pandey run the country with $9 a barrel. The average high for 1995, the highest the price was $20.53. 1996, $26.55. 1997, $26.55. 1998, $17.93. 1999, $28.03. 2000, highest price, $37.22. 2001, $32.21. But for the sake of 1 or 2 months, a couple months, that it might have fallen to $9 and something, well, they come in with nonsense about he run the country on $9. Look, miss us with that BS, summer, please. Well, you sell that loot to the waterfront ilk. Tell them that. They will buy that and run with it, which they're still doing for how much years now? Pandey hasn't been prime minister for what? 23 years, almost. And all they're still running with that choppiness about he run the country on $9. Please. And I'm going to talk about he was a champion for the poor and so on. The Caroni workers said that they felt betrayed by that administration. Right? All the Caroni, he was the one who initiated the closure of Caroni in 1975, but all they want to put that on Patrick Manning, to bowl that to Mr. Manning's chest. Mr. Manning simply followed through at what started under them. Dollar for dollar. Want to give him praises? No problem. All right. But we know what dollar for dollar meant. Come with your dollar. You want to study? Tertiary education, hear what? Bring $1 and we will give you $1. For every dollar you bring, we will match it. And if you don't have $1, well, hard luck. Salt. Mr. Manning came in and said, here what? You don't have $1, no problem. We put in the entire bill. Don't worry. We will not put the pressure on you because we know things hard. So you have, we will put the entire bill. But dollar for dollar, that was the greatest prime minister. But the man who came in and said, dollar for dollar, I'll do one better. Forget that. Even if you have the dollar, you hold that. See what else you could do with it. Fix yourself. We will foot the bill because the oil money running and the citizens should benefit from it. And we believe if it is that we have an educated population, a well-educated population at every level, it will only redound to the benefit of the country in years to come. Mr. Manning took pattern from Singapore. The same Singapore they always want to talk about. And I hear them talking nonsense about Mr. Pandey was trying to govern using Singapore style. Really? What? What did he do? They always like to talk about Singapore and Singapore. You understand how Singapore gets where they are? Because that is their disciplined country. And because their first prime minister and longest serving prime minister was a benevolent despot. The very things, all like accusing Dr. Rowley of being a dictator. Lee Kuan Yew was a dictator. Right? And the things that the opposition today are allowed to get away with. If Lee Kuan Yew was the prime minister, Kamala and them would have been behind bars a long time. Long time. Right? With no charge. Just lock them up. Because he saw the opponents, the opposition as being obstructionist, and he realized that his vision is what the country needed to go forward. Today, Singapore stands as testimony to that. And it's the same thing Eric Williams was trying to do, but you see, he didn't have the dictatorship tendencies. At least not to the extent of Lee Kuan Yew. Maybe if he did, perhaps we might have been a lot like Singapore today, which is what they want. But they always forget to talk about that aspect of how Singapore got to be where it is today. Yeah, the very thing in Singapore, you can't chew you can't spit throw garbage there, and you can't throw gum on the road, and all kind of thing. But if it is the government implement that as a law here, you will hear them. The same people who present that in Singapore have a problem. What the hell Rowley feel is? Who he feel is? Yeah. Right? As I said, all I want to sing Mr. Pandey when he was asked to speak about the good things that Mr. Robinson did. And of course, still total feelings for 2001 with the Crown Plaza Accord, where Mr. Robinson handed government to Mr. Manning and the PNM. When Mr. Pandey was asked, when Mr. Robinson died, to say, speak on the good things that Mr. Robinson did, said, never forget that interview. I can't recall any. Perhaps I missed them. That's what he said. I can't recall any. Perhaps I missed them. Couldn't think of nothing good that Robinson did. But I wouldn't be so ungracious, right? Yes, there were good things that he did. Some of them slipped me at the moment, but forgive me, because what comes to mind, and you say, I don't want to malign the man's reputation. I don't want to malign his legacy. I will say, yes, there were things, certain things that he did as prime minister that would have benefited the country. Would have been tarnished. Unfortunately, most of it would have been overshadowed by the Incogen deal, the Salcott, the dog rice, the 30 million dog rice, and the bicycles that came with the rice. All of these different things would have overshadowed that. And again, the fact that he allowed wrongdoing to take place at the airport until Julian John came to him and he decided to do something, not much, if only perhaps because he realized that Julian John was not willing to go along with the status quo, and perhaps felt that if he had not done something, her complaints about this one meeting that she attended, she didn't need to attend 5, 6, 7, and 10. One meeting, very first meeting, she attended, and the greed was palpable. She was uncomfortable. She wanted to puke. Listening to these guys and the things that they were talking about and how they, clearly, how they plan to thief. She went to the boss, straight to the boss. The boss says, I'm away. What is he to do? Well, Jillian is my new Minister of Works and Transport. She's uncomfortable with what is happening. So clearly she's not prepared to toe the line. She's not prepared to join the feeding frenzy, the milch cow. So, if I don't do something about it, she might resign. And then that would put the spotlight on my government, because media would want to know what she just got appointed minister, and all of a sudden she resigned. Why? because clearly she wasn't prepared to be a part of that. That is why he handed over that airport to her. And I heard, talking to somebody who was at the time the general manager of NIBDEC, who gave me ball by ball empirical of what that experience was. That when Julie and John went in there, when they saw the shell, months before this thing was supposed to open, it was just a shell, and she had to go in there, the food court. They had nothing in place, no concessionaires, nothing, and she had to go and beg her former employers, Pizza Boys, Sabgabur and them, to come and put a Pizza Boys in the airport and all these kind of things. Had to go looking for people to occupy the food court. It was a mess. After all that money was spent, nobody thought about it. To this date, all the things that were supposed to be done, when you go to the airport and you check in your bags at the counter and they put it on the conveyor belt and it goes in the back. Everything that was supposed to be put in the back there wasn't done. I think up to this day, probably still hasn't been done. Right? They presided over it. At that time, the largest, like $1.4 billion spent. All kind of thing, a hammer costing $20-something thousand and a door $400,000. A man get a contract just to cut piece of lawn for $400 and something thousand. And there are persons who are telling us today, forget about that. That was just trumped up. That wasn't true. That wasn't true. We stand to get over $1 billion in the courts in Miami for something that wasn't true. The US court is convinced that that was corruption. But we have people in Trinidad and Tobago here, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, who should cry shame on that. Tell you that was just trumped up charges. A PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. Right? But those persons in the other jurisdiction who have no horse in the race, they're looking at the evidence dispassionately, and they have come to the conclusion, yes, a fraud was committed on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. But it seems we need outsiders to tell us that. What was evident to us? We need linguists and the US judge in Miami to tell us, hey, all the government rob all here. They perpetrated a fraud on you all. We need them to tell us that. We can't discern that for ourselves because we stupid, we do it. It's just trumped up charges. Yeah, because as if the PNM really needs to do that. In both incarnations of the UNC, rampant corruption. I asked them to talk about corruption under Keith Rowley, they can't tell you. All kind of stupid talk. They must go back to O'Halloran and Privat. Ask them the allegations, what should show us one project under Patrick Manning that could be likened to the airport scandal. They can't tell you. Right? All the things they tell us in 2010 were called the Hart thief and Manning thief and all of this and all these big projects and so on, how much money thief. They were in office for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Well, I had never got questioned by the police. The only thing they tried to pin on Mr. Manning was the church in Guanapo, right? And the Integrity Commission cleared him of that. And they come to say he thief a grand piano. And the piano right there in the diplomatic center. And when they find it, well, we didn't accuse them of anything, we were just asking a question where the piano went. You were just asking a question, right? But they want to say that the PNM is the most corrupt government ever passed through this country. But I ask them, other than going back 50 years, soon to be 60 years, other than going back to O'Halloran and Privat, and Chisoro and them thing and GMAS, 5-6 decades ago, all these people pushing up daisies long time. In fact, they're probably dust by now. Their skeletal remains is probably turned to dust the length of time that they have been deceased. For those who were buried and those who cremated, well, they have been dust in the wind for many a year. Forget them. This is not about Eric Williams. This is about Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Keith Rowley, Pandey, Manning. Ask them, what is the corruption? But they could just talk that and mouth that stupidness and make all kind of allegations. Let's tell you about Shamfa Kojo, $59,000 phone bill, and Darrell Smith, $150,000 in hush money. Anything else? Does that compare? A 59 desperate. So all these people with these revisionists, as I said, give Pandey his due, right? Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And if there is any accolades that is due to him, I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm sure there is. Give it to him. But let us not pretend as if it was all perfect. Let us not pretend, right? Many wrongs took place under his 1-2. That is why his government fell. Because at the time, there were certain persons, members of his government, who were of the considered view that it was just too much. The corruption was just too much. And while he may have been prepared to turn a blind eye, They were not, because their reputations were at stake. Ramesh Maharaj, Chavasudama, Ralph Maharaj, back when he had some level of decency, back then, to some extent, Sadiq Bash, yeah. But Kamla Prasad says, so when her turn comes, I wait with bated breath to see and to hear the things that they will say. But I will never forget why she was made Attorney General under Mr. Pandey when he fired Ramesh Maharaj. Never forget that. And what it is she did. She had no interest that 23 years later, you could come and tell the population that the Piako Airport scandal was, to quote her, PNM smear campaign designed to make UNC look corrupt, when you had documents, the evidence in your hand from a man who was paid, the same man in whom confidence was placed, the party of which you originated from, the NAR, placed confidence in Mr. Lindquist to go after O'Halloran. And you all were pleased, well pleased, with the results that Mr. Lindquist delivered when he had to go after the PNM and O'Halloran. There was no question as to his competency. And the same Lindquist come back now, in 2000, to investigate the airport. And all of a sudden, you have issues with Lindquist. They want to know, why is it an interim report after so much money was spent on this investigation? And they want to know if it is that Ramesh had put it out to tender the contract for a forensic auditor and a contract for whatever position Carl Hudson Phillips served in. That was your only concern. You weren't concerned with the findings of this report that your Prime Minister sat down on for months. That your Prime Minister admitted. He said that. It's unfortunate no member of the media, I think, not to the best of my recollection, ever put the question to him. So, Mr. Pandey, what do you have to say to Julie John's testimony that you told her you were aware of the wrongdoing, that it was a feeding frenzy and a milk crop? He said that. But in the interest of time, let me play for you all. As I said, I crave your indulgence. Just when you thought this man couldn't get any more pathetic, he says, hold my punching. Anyway.
You know, keep my moment could pass. Keep Christopher.
Yes. Let me just get this here. Give me 1 sec. Forgive me earlier, please. I begging. But, yeah.
You know, not even a moment could pass. Keep Christopher Rowley, you classless embarrassment, you disgusting miscreant. Bastio Pandey is a former Prime Minister. You put out a post about he's an actor, lawyer, a politician, a labor leader. He's a former Prime Minister and a better Prime Minister than you could ever be. You disrespectful, disgusting human being. Keep Christopher miscreant Obiaman Rowley. Bastio Pandey is a former Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, who operated this country on $9 a barrel for oil. You have 125 plus MMBTU at 13, plus all kind of things, and you're a complete failure who does not even have the class to give a man his just deserts and respect. Rowley, you are such a disrespectful fool. The people are waiting for you. I didn't want to come and do our next one, but Bastio Pandey is first and foremost a former Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Get that through your bald dunce head, Keith Christopher Rowley. Bastio Pandey once said, if you see me and a lion fighting, feel sorry for the lion. Keith Rowley once said, if you see me and a jackass fighting, don't get involved in family business.
That's a senator. That's the best Kamla Prasad I could have found. And he fancies himself to be a comedian, a clown. Well, I will add one to that, Anil. If you see Anil Roberts liming by a bar, say a prayer for his wife. say a prayer for his wife, because when he reach home in that state, anything could happen. That's probably why Shandel left him. But anyway, I digress. That is the filth that Kamala has sitting in our apartment. Even if Pandey has passed, oh gosh, say what you had to say, but you had a, I don't know if it, and if he felt that he needed to support Gary Griffith, because the only person who took issue with Dr. Rowley not making mention of Mr. Pandey's role as a former prime minister was Gary. He put out a whole post, and he probably realized nobody ain't taking money, he got no support. And he'll back him up now, boy. Or maybe he saw it, he saw Gary Griffith's post and realized, boy, like nobody ain't saying nothing, nobody giving Gary any props. Let me jump on the bandwagon and give him some support, because right now he out on that limb all by himself. As I said earlier, if Suzette Lower could basically condemn Gary Griffith for that foolishness, says something. She was always critical of the prime minister, but this clown felt that he needed to come and add insult to injury, to call Dr. Rowley all kind of names because he didn't mention Mr. Pandey was a former prime minister. So apparently the country wasn't aware that Mr. Pandey was a former prime minister, so we needed the current prime minister to put that in his post. Well, I guess we had to say thank God Gary Griffith made that observation, otherwise he wouldn't have had anything to do a doubles and coffee about. And then goes on to double down to talk nonsense about if you see Dr. Rowley and a donkey fighting and so on. You consummate dunce. I mean, what a despicable piece of filth. I don't know. Could this clown go any lower? And this is the man that Kamala Prasad's sister wants to represent St. Joseph, the community of St. Joseph. Well, we know their supporters have no problem with him, right? Because when they go low, that is their mantra. When they go low, we go below the pavement, and even the pavement too good for them. Even below the pavement too good for this piece of trash. Not even the labas good. The labas too good for him. I don't know where you could relegate that. But that's what you could look forward to in 2025. That piece of trash. A minister of government, and you want to call him honorable. Even now, the honorable senator, honorable nothing. There is nothing honorable about him. Nothing honorable about him. Every time he does a live, he needs to put a toilet bowl handle in his ears and flush his mouth. He should be chewing on toilet paper whole day for the filth that comes out of his mouth. And he feels that he can say the things that she wants to say, but cannot say it. That she must restrain herself because she is the leader of the opposition. So that is her lucky. Come on, Anil. Come. Yeah, I need you. Say it. You know? Right. Come. And he just there, like a little potong at her feet, waiting to do her bidding. That disgusting piece of filth. Trash. If it's not patently clear by now, I do not like this man. I despise Anil Roberts. Every bone in his body. Once upon a time, there was a time long ago when I had respect for him. When that was before he became a politician. When he had this program on Gael called Spoke. Right? And when he said just talk sports, not politics. And he did a feature on my nephew, who was at the time 8 years old, and he used to run with one of these clubs back when he was interested in being an athlete. And I remember there was a newspaper article, some race my nephew had won, and he featured it on his program and so on. And I felt very proud of that, and I appreciated that. And so when he became Minister of Sport, at that time, before he became the disrespectful twat that he is now, so okay, maybe it has some hope here. Maybe. Because all the sports talk, again, they could fool you with the talk, with the mouth, just like Gary Griffith did. So, okay, well, at least maybe there'll be one hope in that party. Yeah? Shame on me. Shame on me. Fool me once, shame on me. I should have known better, but I didn't. Yes. Penance for me for that. And today, that filth, this woman wants to foist on us again as a government minister. And this man, it speaks to Kamala Prasad's poor judgment when it comes to selecting the ideal persons to govern. And therefore, we should be concerned about that. That if she retains confidence in this man, so much so that he is likely to be their nominee for St. Joseph, that tells you the caliber of persons that she is going to retain to populate her cabinet, should she become prime minister again. I cannot for the life of me proudly say I'm a Trinbagonian with a man like that in my government. I'd be ashamed to say I'm from Trinidad. Ashamed. And this piece of filth will have to go abroad to represent our country, whatever position she gets. Probably she will bring him back as Minister of Sport if she gets that opportunity. The fact that I see some parties, opposition parties in Dominica, something they have, and he's supposed to be the feature speaker. Wow. He's supposed to be the feature speaker. So many other politicians you have in Trinidad. So many other politicians around the Caribbean region. And that's the best that they could have found. No wonder why they're in opposition in Dominica. Yeah. That. But we could bold that to Kamala Persad just because you see filth of that magnitude could never fly in the PNM. Never. Not even as a councillor would Dr. Oli would want nothing to do with it. And in fact, the entire hierarchy of the PNM, he couldn't come close, nowhere close. Not even a supporter, not even a member. They would reject that application forthwith, rip it up and throw it in the bin. And then make sure all you burn that too. There must be no evidence that clown ever applied to be a PNM. It's unfortunate that he was once a PNM. Back when he had sense and he had decency, he was a card-holding member of the PNM. Yeah, but today, so desperate to be Kamala Persad Bissessa's pot on, that is what he will resort to. Disgusting. Anyway, 7701763. Fed up on it. Anyway, there's more I could say on Pandey, but I wouldn't go down that road. Needless to say, I said I support the call. Name the airport after him as a monument of shame to that party. So anytime in the future, when mention is made of the corruption that took place with respect to that airport, and young folks in the future ask, but if all that corruption happened, why did they name the airport after Mr. Pandey? Isn't that a stain on his legacy? Remind them that he said, I am aware. Jenny, give me 1 sec. Let me just switch devices here for this thing. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
You know, I have to get in early.
Yes.
And all the callers who are, your callers are listeners of Facts and Stubborn Things. This conversation, I think I'm hearing where they want to name they're saying that the airport should be named after Sebastian Pandey. Mm-hmm. I think people are being sarcastic. Yeah, I know. I think because that was labeled a massive corruption scandal. Mm-hmm. There was a commission inquiry into that. Jolene John cried the inquiry, they say, talking about how much corruption it had and how much money. We had people made jail in America for that. Mm. Kamala Persad Bissessa created a whole ministry of Justice, to make legislation, Section 34, to free 2 of the financiers of UNC who are part of that airport scandal. The biggest march in this country came out of that, led by Dr. Christopher Rowley, marching against Section 34. And I could go on and on. So that's what I'm saying. The people who are saying that, they're being sarcastic. And like you, they should name it after Ambassador Pandey Corruption International Airport. So when people see the word corruption, they ask, what do you mean by that? And have somebody there relay the whole story. You know, when you land in the airport and you have entertainment, have a reenactment, of the whole scandal with Bob Linguist, somebody looking like Bob Linguist, somebody looking like Ramesh Lord Mirage, and you have a whole theater. So it's always there. So I'll leave that there. This situation that we have that continues with these shootings in this country. You know what happened is like when we used to be seeing the fighting in schools, you know, herd behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You see one behavior in a particular when everybody jumping up. I think it has reached to that now, where it's just, it's all right, you know, we could do it, we could get away with it. When we deal with a situation, easiest thing to do, let me just go shoot up the place. No need to think it out. So you say something about me, you ain't like it, this way, if I taste, and it's just a kind of a rampant behavior that everybody just following now. And then when you have politicians or people who in power or authority saying certain things and doing certain things, and you're seeing that just like, well, if them could do it by real business, you have Annie Roberts, you just play Annie Roberts. There's a senator. We see a man in a hotel room saying if he take a polygon, but he could drink rum and you hear Spanish talking. We saw that. He says not she, and Kamala says she can't say it's he. We saw live sport. A woman still out of the country. We don't know where she is, Ruth Malchan. Ruth Malchan used to be a camper at the Eldorado Girls Camp. So we know her. She went to the youth camp, she did well, she went and studied and did Spanish and all that, came back at work in the ministry. And so many other lives were lost on the life sport. We see how not Malabar, what's that place there? He was the representative.
W. O'Meara.
W. O'Meara. We saw W. O'Meara became. We heard of the crime and all that. We saw this. There are people in jail right now connected to all that life sporting. We see that. And young people see this man in parliament. He's a senator. We see this man drunk as a fish. Carnival day, his pants dropped down, he could hardly turn around. And people seeing that, and he's a senator. We see David Nackett call the president and separate jackass and all other things, and he in parliament. We hear that Kamala Prasad know about human trafficking in the UNC. Not we say so, Dr. Devamara says so. He leaves Canada and come down here to do a notarized statement to that fact. Kamala Prasad is still the opposition leader in the UNC. And the man with the allegation against him, he in the parliament still. David Lee on corruption charges, $1 million bail. He's the chief whip of business in the UNC, in the parliament. And I could go on and on and on. And the last thing, Kamala Prasad wanted, they used to emulate Trinidad music. And she took lyrics and talking about knock it, pull it back, be matic. And so we must talk the language of the young people. Because that's the only thing young people are talking about.
Yep.
And then we want to know why things as it is. If a man know he and a man have a beef and there's no need, long time you used to quarrel, you used to cuss it out, meet and fight it out, whatever. But if you have been given a carte blanche kind of behavior to just do anything, there's no need for no talking again. The easiest thing is to load the matic, light it up, load it again, and light it again. And that is where we are. That is why Kamala Prasad and the UNC must never, ever see the halls of power again in this country. And just as the fights in the school has reached a stage, we don't really see it as much. Something was put in place to treat with that. Whether it's counselor, now we hear about mandatory boot camp. Children getting counseling, there are things being put in place. It's the same way we're going to see a reciting of what we see with these girls. Because I believe once they go to court, I think it's this month, And I believe the appeal court will stop the injunction that the FUL will be laid, or the Prime Minister will be able to talk it in the Parliament. I believe when that happens, we're going to see a difference going down for the rest of the year. Because everybody will be focused on that report that Justice Salvi John said was a well-oiled criminal enterprise in the way that FUL license was given, and that was under Gary Griffin as the Commissioner of Police. I think that is the key to treating with a lot of gun issues in this country. That's just my opinion. So I wait eagerly to hear what happens in the appeal court. Governor, you have a blessed day, and everybody locked on. Have a blessed day, and thank you for the opportunity as usual.
Thank you, Jen. Seven 1701-763. Yes, I see somebody mention here where Mr. Pandey was sued by Ken Gordon for calling him a pseudo-racist. Mr. Gordon won the case.
Morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Morning, how are you doing?
I am good, and yourself?
I would like to discuss with Anna Robert, and that's Kamala's picker.
Yes.
Kamala has a lot of faith in him, and it reflects his behavior, reflects of Kamala precisely, and I totally agree with that too. We also have to remember the marijuana at a residence. And what happened, certain officers and them get special treatment and those things, and everything was hushed and shoveled and covered up until Jack Warner and them brought it out. The population didn't know anything about it then. And the commissioner of police come and give us some stupid story about it, and they kill it. Just as how they killed the London bank account and after the UNC went to England, get up proof that Basil Pandey in fact had a London bank account and a luxurious apartment in a real upscale part of the United Kingdom. They went and helped him, and the case ended up getting because of the so long it stayed before they could actually the court could really deal with the issue. These are some of the things that Basil Pandey has hanging over here.
Yes.
And for you to name an airport after him, here what happened? The Caribbean is a tourism destination. A large majority of the airports in the Caribbean are named after former Prime Minister. So I would say it's a good gesture to name Piarco International Airport after a Prime Minister, but not Basil Pandey, because Basil Pandey, if any tourist has to Google Basil Pandey, because they do things like that, they look to find out, who is this Basil Pandey, former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. They don't learn, they just go up on it and they think. When they start to look at certain newspaper articles and headlines and you pass on Basil Pandey, that will be disgusting. One of the most disgusting things is that he was accused of with this matter he had with this lady before he became Prime Minister, and she decided to drop the matter. I don't know, maybe, whatever happened. I can't say because she still do not know why she dropped the matter, because she pointed out Basil Pandey again. When the word treaty was, abuse, or not already abuse, but what?
Yes.
Right? So to name him that, to name people thing, and that people have to, they would say, them PNM people and them, and you don't like Indian and all kind. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the person's character. It has a lot to do with it, and even though to name him after that, I think you'll have to go to a committee, and the committee will choose.
Yes.
They'll have to look at your character and what you did and your achievement. One of the good things I could always talk about Basil Pandey is that, as I said before, he sat down with Prime Minister, opposition leader then, Patrick Manning, Malcolm Jones, and Ken Julian to listen to him and to continue with the project that the PNM was doing. And today that was the birth of our backbone of our revenue stream that comes to Trinidad. Unlike Amna Prasad Bissessa with the smelter plant, that cost us billions of dollars. Right? So I applaud him for that. He's a very good man. He's a very funny character. He makes people chuckle. He's very cunning with so many things he said and things. But Basil Pandya has his monkey in the back ever since before he comes into active politics. Yes. As a trade unionist. He had his monkey on his back then with certain things that was laid against him at the trade union. He became a member of parliament. If he had a state, same thing came up with him. Before he became prime minister, he was accused of something with some woman, and then after his thing, then the Iaco scandal and many other things we could talk about. So to name him after that, you have to take these things into consideration in making a decision like that, because it's not just that it's for you because I like Basil Party, but it's about country. And the next thing is that I listened to Arnel Roberts on the television a couple nights ago. And the way Arnel Roberts spoke about the murder, and he knew the family and how it was, and you could see that this fella in all that born in somewhere down deep inside the conscious vegetable, and mainly probably the alcohol and the drugs and them eating away that part of the brain. So we're just a little bit thinking. You know, he sounds, really concerned and dealing with the actual issue and the fact. But then within listening to him, I get so angry because doing that some weeks soon right after that, he got to twist the whole thing and try to blame Rowley for that, yes, and blame Hines and blame Perla and talk a set of rubbish. So I got angry and I switched off the TV and went to bed. See, right, Arnel Roberts is a disgrace. I don't know how people could tolerate this man. Long ago, I used to lie with him. I don't even speak with him anymore, because his conduct, I don't tolerate that kind of behavior. It comes like, okay, I know you. If you're in my space or whatever, hi, hello, morning, good evening, I will always keep that respect for him. Yes. But when I see him, I read to speak to him also, but if you watch and make eye contact and morning, good evening, something like that, yes, I will do that. But to say that I will sit in a space with him and have a discussion, it must be for a reason. I wouldn't just go and sit down and socialize with him. Why? Because of his character. The same way I wouldn't go and sit down and socialize in the public with the normal bad boys and them. Why? Because of the character. Because other people see me doing that when they think and they'll put their own piece in and come with their own logic on it, and hey, this fella, like, hey, he know this fella, he in that too, boy. You have to watch him, you understand? And that is how I viewed Arnel Roberts. So it's like birds of a feather. So when I view Arnel Roberts' behavior, which is very disgusting, disrespectful, all the bad words I can think about, who have him there? Not Kamala Prasad Bissessa. So she's birds of a feather, both of them in the same thing. She may be quiet, but every now and then she does make a disgusting statement. Yeah, and even though she reached us so far now that she's telling people to light them up and think, and she's telling us that that sort of violent music, we should embrace that, and nothing wrong with that, and the people and them sing, and not the disgusting languages that they use and the violence that they use in the song. And I have said it again, I say that I'm gonna say it now, that if these guys and them were to change their ways, use the music and sing things of sense, they know that they really love ballads, they do, sing, listen on issues with the nice music, they could challenge the world, they could challenge the Caribbean, we could challenge the Jamaicans, and then we could take it outside and challenge the people in them R&B in the United States, and we could do the billboards of the United Kingdom. But this vulgar music cussing, threatening to kill, violence, serious, disgusting violence. These labels and them not they wouldn't reach far. You wouldn't see these fellas and then getting platinum or on the top R&B chart or the top international chart and all this kind of violent music. So I would like these guys and them to stop that way, come together as a unit of Trinidad and Tobago to fight the Jamaicans international fight. I don't mean violent fight, but give them competition with their music. Because Jamaicans and them just put out some good things. We putting out very good music, but with the calypso and the soca. But however, we can improve on it with these guys and them because these youth are very talented. They're very talented. When they put their words to the song, the nice little groovy background song and everything, it's nice. However, the violence, the hatred, the vulgarness, I mean, that's the bad part about it. So I that's my contribution to it. I don't know if some, I remember with Robert Armour with his song Basin that he started, but he was trying to get the government to bail him out, but he wants to control it, and the government telling him don't want that. If the government had to bail him out, obviously, the government had to take full control of it, but he wanted the government to bail him out so he could still have full control. So that's why today he's bitter against this government. That's one of the reasons that he's so bitter, because he had proven to be a failed businessman. And for him to lose Toyota, wow. He lose Toyota, his father's legacy that he left, and he was in charge of it because Toyota, the Japanese, had to come and take it back. So it's a long story if I go into that. But that's my contribution for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, but what's for me the interesting thing? They said, plenty of them saying that Mr. Pandey was the greatest and the best prime minister this country ever had, right? So I asked the question. Other than the airport, is there anything else that was constructed while he was prime minister that we could name after him beside the airport? Anything comes to mind?
Hello.
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 Yes, sir.
Yes, man. How are you?
I am good, man.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I hear you.
Right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, man. Well, something come to my mind. I remember that when he was prime minister, there was a well-kept secret in Cuba with a technology center where he was training the children of sugarcane workers to be adept in computers and technology. You know about that one, Dominic?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I think people talk about that, but it's alleged that when Patrick Manning took a visit to that place, Patrick Manning got sick, and that's how Patrick Manning decided to give up to create the UTT and get free tertiary education. Right? So that was a well-guarded secret. But I hear people now talking about how good Pandey is. It's a bunch of hypocrisy to the max. Because something similar happened with Mr. Manning and Mr. A.N. Robinson. Right? The only difference is with A.N. Robinson, the same Basil Pandey did have nothing good to say about Mr. A.N. Robinson.
Yes.
You remember that one?
Yep.
Hello, Dominic?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. And I could say the same thing with Mr. Manning. When he late, Satmar had nothing good to say about him. So, all this hypocrisy now, crocodile tears, is very jokey. And I totally agree with Ms. Jenny. Naming the airport after him is very sarcastic. It's a big joke. That is like naming let me see, an extermination camp after Adolf Hitler.
Yes.
If you understand where I'm coming from, Dominic.
Yeah.
Right? So I expect in the next few days, the UNC members will be taking this opportunity to lap up the debt and calling for all the all the dissolution troops to come together.
Yep.
And rally around Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be surprised if they try to make overtures to Makila to come and join back in the party. Like what the Bastard plan to say. Politics has a morality of his own.
Correct.
Don't be surprised, Dominic. Don't be surprised at all.
Makila would have to be foolish to take up that offer.
Anything is possible.
Yeah, there's that too. Yes.
So I expect in the coming days, they will have some big emergency meeting, and all UNC get together, come on deck, and rally behind Kamala for 2025. Dominic, have a good day.
You too, sir. Just about a month or so ago, we were having a public discussion to name the airport after Eric Williams, right? But I guess we're not doing that again. We're not interested in that. 7701763. 7701763. Feel free to still have some time. Just let me see here. So let me see. Marlon McKenzie says he was alive. Why didn't he get that name? Now he's dead. Named his Crown Princess town after him. Right. We say good morning to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel Connor, and First Lady Marissa Kagan. So there's an overpass in South on the bypass heading to Gulf City. Someone says that's the worst overpass ever. Hello, good morning.
This was moral and spiritual values. Remember those words?
Yes.
So if you're going to name him after the airport, just remember moral and spiritual values if you want to do that. Nah, no with that too. But the people and them who was against naming the airport after Dr. Eric Williams, and some of the excuses I heard it say is that we don't have to do that and it's an indigenous name. When you Google what the meaning of Piaco of the indigenous people, it's just a savannah. That is how they used to call a savannah. We will call it Queen's Park Savannah. They would, in their language, they'll call that Queen's Park. Instead of saying Queen's Park Savannah, it's Savannah. So naming it after a person who's going to bring something to it, because they really doubt into that, saying that it's an indigenous name and they think and remember the indigenous people, and apparently like they named that after some king or some kind of thing. Is I heard real people make all these things. And all I just doing so great, simple, and they can come up and they tell you exactly what he did with the meaning of that for the indigenous. But we have to be careful, or we have to make our voices heard, because between 2009 to 2015, 16, 17 comes up, one of them voices always loud. They have loud voices, and when we keep talking about it, because PNM, when the PNM put the facts out there, they have the lies, and people running with the lies because the lies sound more juicy and it sounds more excited. And then when the PNM bring out the facts and they debunk what they say, it's because they already put out 3, 4, 5 more again, and they're running with that, and people forgetting that was their thing. So, all these other thing about Manning stole millions and called the heart and all kind of nonsense. Remember that is make Manning get into a tiny tail, because a lot of PNM people is fed up by him with that. Because what we were hearing all these other things and how corrupt Manning is. But Manning with his pacemaker, After he removed from office, he went right back to the normal clinic and those things in Trinidad and just keep up his health, you know. Matthew Pandey was fortunate that he could have the treatment here wasn't so thing, so he could have fly. Even though you're sick and you think he still could have used that air ambulance and go to another country and see about his health. Manning couldn't afford that, and Manning went right back to his house. All the money, and I said that he take the Manning, all that money, Manning can spend the money to see what else. You know? And the same call had which was stolen money. The AG was fighting that, you know what the AG was doing? The AG was just using that as a way, as a tool to siphon money out of the treasury to pay lawyers and to get his kickbacks. All these things are done to humiliate people. Malcolm Jones and the thing here and all that money and the thief and you lock up Malcolm Jones, and that was it in 2029, 2030 thing, that was the mantra. Malcolm Jones come, they think Malcolm Jones support, but they decide, look, listen, the criminal charges against Malcolm Jones, they never laid that. They just went to say they're going to sue him. And while they're suing him, that the British Supreme Council told us that he didn't have a witness statement, and if he had the witness statement, he would have known it makes no sense going behind Malcolm Jones, drop that case. And then you have a senator hiding the witness statement because he didn't pass the witness statement on him because he acted as the junior lawyer for the Supreme Council. This is how the ways these people rip off, you know. All he had to do is to stay quiet in the background, and he collected his money still because people paid him, the UNC using he as a tool to fight all the constitutional cases. And when he win, if he do win, the state had to pay he a whole set of money. And the law association, very quiet on that. They ain't hearing them. Nobody can get them to speak. But we have to keep up our pressure on the law association for them to come out and talk about that, because Anand Ramlogan and his psychic Ramdeen has no right being practicing law in Trinidad and Tobago pending the outcome of their cases. They should be treated like the other officers of the court as the police officers, and them. Any police officer gets caught in a big scandal like that will be suspended on half pay until the case has been completed. If you win the case, you go back out to work and they get back your other money and thing. But what is so special about these lawyers? That they are innocent until proven guilty, and that was the last I heard of the law association on this matter. They can't think because one is innocent until they're proven guilty. But most of the police officers you see are being suspended. They can afford that state treatment too. But another officer in the court, which is a lawyer, they could get it. So they could be today, this morning, the High Court fighting a constitutional matter, and then 2 days after, they sit in, we put them for another judge to discuss corruption charges. And you're talking about when I have to walk in that court, I must be dressed properly, put your shirt in your pants, tuck this in, do that thing, because it's supposed to be, they're up to a certain standard. No wonder the British laws and them say that they're very uncomfortable with the certain individual between them sitting down there in the court. This country is missing. Until we clean up, we act. A thing, but Basio Pandey was the one who invented they will tell people about civil disobedience. You see, with this civil disobedience doing it, men will take clothing and top up Branagh Stadium for the opening. You know why? Because they're back. Because it cost us a couple $100,000 cheaper when they built on the PNM. No, because the member of parliament for penal debate said us would have cost over $150,000. And we get it built for less than that, much less than that. So they went and they choke up the thing because of civil disobedience started by Basio Pandey in this country. Well, Dominic, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Angie Sherry says Pandey was an actor. Pretended he was sick to avoid prison and he lived until he was 90 and made fools of everybody while he and his family were living large. Angie, hello. Morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
How are you going?
I am good, and yourself?
I'm there. I'm so happy to hear that you went and you gave some support, you and Jenny and others, yesterday.
Yes.
To our good friend.
Mm-hmm.
He was in my thoughts yesterday.
Yes.
At these trying times. But yesterday, I don't know if you would have heard it if you came back home in time, that Darian Marcel had 2 interviews yesterday.
No.
The afternoon drive with James Philbert, former Commissioner of Police, as well as Carl Alfonso, former Brigadier General of the Defense Force,
right,
as it pertains to the issue of the 2 women. It was very, very instructive, and I think you should go back because some very pertinent questions were asked by Mr. Marcel and Commissioner Philbert, who is now an attorney at law. Did see some proving things, as well as Carl Alfonso. They both agreed that it was a real mess made by certain people, and a thorough investigation should be held as to exactly why GPs will counteract certain decisions made by a magistrate vis-a-vis bail and so on. And with respect to the letter of that the soldier would have received as a result of him being told to stay away from his wife, and he preached it. I think it was twice. He was under guard at the barracks and so on, and a lot of things were overturned. And he even admitted wanted to do certain things, and they felt that somebody dropped the ball, thereby the loss of life of these 2 women. I said before, Darian asked some very, very probing questions, and we are yet to get the answer as to exactly who was his attorneys and how was a GP able to overturn certain decisions made by the court. And it just goes to show how far up the chain that certain people could do certain things and not be questioned on it and be held accountable. But the loss of life of these 2 women and children are now without a mother, a grandmother, and he will more than likely, I don't know, he will go to jail because they were began to claim that he may have some sort of psychoanalysis may have to be done.
Right. And
all of these sorts of things. But at the end of the day, I always believe when somebody does something like that, they just know how to run. So no psychoanalysis could prevent them from telling them, hey, run, run in the bush. But if you're so have to be psychoanalyzed, so where you're running going, you don't do what you had to do, you see you were going to do it. So where you're running going?
Yes.
Face the law. But it is really, really instructive, which kind of questions, probing questions, as I said before, that were being asked by these 3 gentlemen yesterday. It was a very, very instructive commentary. And if you get an opportunity, you should go back and listen to it.
I will.
But it is what is happening today that you can easily get a gun, whether it's from the Defense Force arsenal or whether it's from anywhere, and do what you want to do, and the law will take its time with you, and in about maybe 5 to 9 years' time, he may get bail because he would have all forgotten the the heinous act that was perpetrated on these two women. And at the end of that, and we continue to, and we move on from there. And then there was some, I understand there was some shooting in Tunapuna last night by the market. 5 people, 2 dead.
Oh boy.
Others are injured. Firearms again. So that is the, but so far that's 9 that we know about on the 4 of our new year. So now it's no longer 1 by 1, it's now 3 by 3 and 4 by 4 and 5 by 5. And the method is the firearm. So as you rightly said earlier in your discourse, these poor people who get in the tail and can't buy food and can't send their children to school can afford to purchase a firearm and ammunition, you know, and create, and I mean, it does damage to your body. So if you manage to live, and then there's surgery and rehabilitation, and we are paying for that.
Yes.
You know? So when you have an average of 500 plus getting killed every year now, somebody making money and somebody doing the killing. And it has to be heartless people, but then at the end of the day, they get in bail because a cadre of attorneys, a cabal of attorneys have done their homework to ensure that money keeps moving in a particular direction. So when you come down south, especially, you're seeing these mansions with money all in the walls, money all in the ground, money all over the place, according to some people. No questions being asked at the Integrity Commission, not questioning them. 1 minute before 2010, you're poor, but after that, by 2015, you're in the top 10 of richest people in Trinidad and Tobago. And there are no questions being asked. The Integrity Commission have a problem, so they're going to court because they find they should get $58 million more. So they could investigate the Honorable Prime Minister, finish the case, and reopen it because they must forget something. So that's a question of integrity. And when he talks about it, there are certain talk show hosts, all of a sudden now who went up for election under the PNM banner, all of a sudden talking about how disgraceful this Prime Minister is sounding because he talk about it. I wonder where his head is at all of a sudden, because he has nothing good to say about the PNM. Maybe he has gone across to the other side, but that's okay. That he's free to do so. But when the Integrity Commission were being challenged, all these commissions were being challenged under the UN, under the partnership, and even as the opposition, he had nothing to say. Yeah, nothing to say. But it is what it is, and I always keep saying that there are people out there who will sing for their supper. That is how it is. Now, when you have a man like Basan, the rice issue Bharat, talking about regardless of what transpired, he ain't say transpiring, you know. What transpired with respect to the airport, that Bastille Pandey, the airport should be named after Bastille Pandey. I understand what he was saying. Not that I'm in agreement. But you see, there's nothing else to name. When Bastille Pandey was there, he really didn't build anything. He didn't put up any building. You know, so there's nothing else to name after him. But it appears as though unless you see it while you are alive, apparently it is standard now that some building or some institution should be named after you, regardless of your past history. You know? But people yesterday on another frequency reminded us of the many atrocious things that were done under him. I recall that a certain attorney general got a report on what was happening in these homes for girls and so on, and it was hidden away for over 25 years. And the rape and personal, and then the attacks on these women, who some of them young girls who became even pregnant in these homes, and boys, all of these things that were done was hidden away for 25 years. And the author of the investigator and author of the report is in Canada, if you recall. That was under the leadership of Bastio Pandey. Nothing was done for 25 years. Even when he came out of office, he didn't say anything about it. So those girls, those young girls, were left to feel that pain for another 25 years. The sodomizing and the raping and everything else that went along with it. To the extent even there was one individual who had a home, I think it was up in Europe, but he had no children in it and he was getting money from the state. You understand? But there are a lot of things that I will not regurgitate because they have been said repeatedly by a lot of the callers. But we must ask ourselves the question, should we name the towers down by Hyatt Regency after Patrick Manning? Should we name Government Plaza on Richmond, just off Richmond Street after Patrick Manning? Should we do that? Is that the, are we going to name after Kamala Prasad Pisesa? Is that how it is? That's what we should do? Are we going to name after she?
The Cuba Hospital, right?
I think sometimes when I hear these so-called wannabe leaders talking, I just have to shake my head and say, you have been embarrassed, you have been insulted, Mr. Barrett. And you want to come back now because your rice deal was scuttled and the investigation quashed. This former Prime Minister, who has just died, is the first and only Prime Minister to be sent to jail. And on appeal he got out, and you know who got him out? A former president of Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe that was his reward for getting him out of jail. And we have to ask ourselves questions as to connect the dots, exactly what is really going on here. So it continues unabated. So now you have people getting bail for murder, the accused people getting bail for murder, and people telling you that, well, how you know they're guilty? It's okay if they get bail because they're innocent until proven guilty. Okay. So people are dying. When these people come out, the other people are dying and they are dying too. So they're innocent. Some of them are being caught with caches of guns. Right? And some of the deaths that we know about and home invasions, like the Passad, the Food King. We all know about those. But it continues and nothing is being said about it. So people are doing what they want and getting away with it in this country. And how do we stop it? That is the question. Or do we just say, let me name something after he and forget what happened in the past? Ashton Ford this morning was at pains to say what should be done in his honor. He said at the end, this is not for me. He was at pains to describe Bastio Pandey this morning. There was very little for him to say, well, this was a good man and this was this man and that was. Apparently, when you die now, everything is, all the bad is forgotten and all the good comes to the fore. So we are not being honest with ourselves. But he was good for the country. Wow. And here is where we go. I wonder what they will say about Mrs. Bosa when her time comes. Have a good day, Dominic.
You too, sir.
All the best.
Same to you. Let me again say good morning to Mr. Chance. And family condolences to you guys. It was good seeing you yesterday. Sir, and we continue to keep you and your family in our prayers. Right, so it is 8:45, folks. Permit me to take my leave at this time. I see yesterday's Future Charles's funeral. I think I don't know, I think it's supposed to be broadcast on THA Facebook page or something like that for those of you who are interested. Good morning, Daryl. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, so, and condolences, of course, as well, going on to the family of Future Charles and by extension, the Tobago community. I wait to hear what accolades will be showered on him by Farley and others today. So thank you again, folks, for joining me this morning. I will not be on Sunday, unfortunately. As you know, Carnival season is upon us, and I do work with NCC, and so on Sunday we have the training session with 2 co-judges. So I will be there on Sunday. Starts at 9 o'clock. So, and I think it runs until about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, so I won't be on Sunday, but God's willing, we will be back. I'll be back on Tuesday morning, and we will continue the discussion. Yeah, so have a productive day. Enjoy your weekend, and keep safe. Next week we will chat. Thank you so much, Deborah, Andrea, Ines, Nikki, James, Deshrubin. Morning to all of you guys. Morning to Mother Tuna Puna, Agnes Mondezir, Marilyn Cloud. Good morning to you all. Joycelyn, thank you so much. Thank you, Annette, Rena Jennings, Nicola McNichols. Thank you. Hey, my friend, Miss McNichols. We will chat and yes. Sedena Kwashi, thank you all so much. Yeah, so we will chat again on Tuesday morning.